useless to start to say, oh, my zazen is no good, blah, blah, blah. It's just a simple fact. Like if you do a sport, like running, for example, if you run every day, then your body becomes used to running, and your muscles become used to running, and it's okay. But it's still hard work. And zazen is no different. From one aspect, it's a physical practice, and it's hard. I mean, it's hard for me because I don't sit like this all the time. I sit like this. So my muscles are so used to like sitting like this. If I sit like that, there's two things I feel, oh, nice. And then my muscles say, that's strange. Doesn't feel right. Move a bit. That's better. So we have muscle memory. And our muscles remember very accurately what we do. And they even remember the emotional tension that we put into our body. So we could say the muscles remember emotion to some extent, trauma. So don't judge it. This 13th century monk who I studied for so long insisted that if you sit in the posture, everybody who sits in the posture is practicing zazen. It's like ice skating. If there's somebody on the ice skating rink and you think, oh, perfect. And then there's somebody at the side like this, but you don't say they're not skating, they're skating. Everybody who's got skates on and they're going around the ice is skating. But if you practice skating, you find it easier. And if you don't, or you don't want to, or you don't have time to do it, then it's more difficult. So it's very helpful to look at it from a practical point of view. And if you get repeating problems, then go and see physiotherapist or osteopath or your doctor, and make sure that there's nothing wrong with your body. But it's always hard work. I find that to try and keep my health is more and more difficult as I get older. So I work much harder now than I did when I was younger. And it won't stop. I could give up and watch the television in the armchair all day, like lots of people do. But I don't want to. Something I want to make an effort. So as long as we have that feeling to make an effort, what kind of feeling is it? I don't know, but it's something makes us want to make an effort. As long as we have that, it's going to be hard work. Don't expect anything else. Don't expect a wonderful, peaceful, effortless practice. You might unexpectedly have it one day or one weekend or
1 hour.
1 hour, yeah.
1 minute.
Or 10 minutes, yeah. Yeah, but don't expect it. It's a result of effort. And I have to keep making an effort with my posture. But you've been to Japan, Katrina. Did you notice that certainly older Japanese women all have beautiful posture? When they sit in a chair, they never lean back They always sit like that. I don't know if you noticed.
Because they're used to seiza a lot.
And they're not used to having chairs to lean back.
Not used to lean back, yeah. They are used to seiza, which supports, well, they have to support the body.
They have to support the body. Men are a bit more kind of, Japanese men are a bit more lazy physically, but I don't know young people.
They can
now.
even sit like that, but women can't. So seiza pushes you to sit straight on, because otherwise.
But even sitting on normal chairs, most women who are over 40 will sit beautifully.
Oh yeah, you're right. Even some younger girls.
Some, but
when they are brought up with this kind of sense of
posture.
Yeah. So they
nothing to do
really
with
eat
Buddhism.
like this. So when I was in a restaurant, I was like slurping noodles, and then I could see the girl, and I was like,
pick up the bowl and take it to their mouth. And then
exactly. Just be beautiful.
so
I was like,
that's right. And the men do like this.
Yeah.
I don't know why. The difference between I'm talking about older people, because I left Japan 20 years ago. So young people's habits are changing. The shape of their body is changing.
Becoming taller.
Taller and lots of physical changes. So you don't need to criticize your zazen. It doesn't do anything really.
My husband told me, don't worry, because these girls, they were brought up since their really early childhood, so they were kind of, you have to.
That's right.
It's all the time.
That's right. And if they sit like this, their muscles say, no.
I mean that the parents and mother, she just, no, you have to be.
That's right.
So it's, I remember at school like that I was sitting at school and, so what can you expect?
And I was very thin and tall, well, relatively tall, very thin. So my posture when I was young wasn't good at all. When I was a teenager, great to sit like this. But it affected my mood, without me noticing.
And do you think it's fine during zazen to kind of refresh the posture, because it's very statical? And
no, it's not static.
When you, for me, it's good when I kind of, from time to time, think about the pelvis, think about
if you read the old instructions written by old monks, they say it's not a fixed posture. In that story yesterday,
you can play around
it said
with that.
Buddha is not fixed. Now, it doesn't mean only you mustn't have a fixed idea. It also means it's dynamic.
It's dynamic.
The meditation is dynamic. So lots of teachers, I noticed, I heard, I didn't meet them, talk about a fixed posture and keeping still. There's a group in Europe started by a Japanese monk called Deshimaru, and he has many disciples, and I guess Kaisen is one of those.
And maybe also the German Nakagawa.
Nakagawa?
Strict.
Yes.
No.
Um,
Isn't he?
No. Okay.
He's not disciple of
He wasn't.
Okay.
I'm not
No.
He's not saying you mean the same strictness.
So, that kind of teaching came from Japan into Europe and America. You know, keep still, don't move. If it's painful, push through the pain. But it's wrong. You can't find any kind of balance if you're forcing yourself to sit. And the man whose name came up yesterday, Issho Fujita, who's a youngish.
62.
Young Japanese monk. He started going around to these groups, in Deshimara groups, and telling them, Zazen is your body has to be flexible in order to find the position of balance for your body. So things slowly are changing, but traditionally Zen teaching was, it's kind of like strong, military, kind of very male.
Yeah, that's what. That's
actually. I don't mean men, I mean male.
Yes,
the male part of us. Hard.
I can do it.
Can you?
No, it's like this kind of attitude. I can do it.
Can you?
No.
Oh,
Not I can. I'm not bragging.
No.
I'm not bragging.
okay. Yeah, I can do it. Yeah. And it's sad, really.
Yeah, okay.
So you might not need to move much. You might find that to learn how to sit for yourself, you need to learn to move a lot. Fine. How can you balance body and mind if your body and mind are not flexible? It's like trying to stand on one leg without, like this.
Yeah.
Can't do it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I wanted to talk this morning about the saying of an ancient master. Sorry. He's not a Buddhist master, he's a tennis master. And ancient means 1970. It's that book I mentioned yesterday. But I like it so much, I'd like to read you, if you can understand. This is what he wrote in the book. You can translate into Czech. Okay, good point. It is perplexing, puzzling, to wonder why we ever leave the here and now, present. Here and now are the only place and time when one ever enjoys oneself or accomplishes anything. Most of our suffering takes place when we allow our minds to imagine the future or to mull over the past, to reflect on the past. Nevertheless, few people are satisfied with what is before them at the moment. Our desire that things should be different from what they are pulls our minds into an unreal world, and consequently we are less able to appreciate what the present has to offer. Our minds leave the reality of the present only when we prefer the unreality of the past or the future. And then he talks about his own experience. To begin to understand my own lapses of concentration, I had to know what I was really desiring. And it soon became clear to me that there were more desires operating in me on the tennis court than simply playing tennis. Lots of different things are happening. In other words, tennis was not the only game I was playing on the tennis court. Part of the process of attaining a concentrated state of mind is to know and resolve these conflicting desires. And that's what he talks about in the next chapter. So I like that a lot.
Yeah.
But the first sentence, it's a puzzle. Why do we ever leave the present moment? Because we're here, but we keep wanting to leave it.
If we only stayed on the trees. 10,000 years ago.
Why are you leaving the present moment
without
already? You're already back in the tree. We can't help it, can we?
It's so hard. Yeah. You always compare because there's something. So you always say, blah, 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 these people, but maybe I should be with other people somewhere else, blah, 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 blah. This job, no, I should have stayed there. It was better.
Is that what you thought?
Oh, yeah, of course. After the first day, I was like, fuck, what have I done? Oh my God.
Well,
but it got better, and it really helped me, this focus on the moment, enjoy the people you have around you, just listen, and it's better.
yeah.
You really never know what is good and what is bad. You can't really know. So.
But I really like what he said in the first part, that it's like we are willing to leave the here and now when we believe that this thinking about future will give us something more.
Yeah.
That was, I think, very profound.
The reason he can write these profound things after practicing tennis is because tennis is about being in the moment. He's a professional tennis player. And in a game like tennis, you can tell if you're in the moment or not in the moment. If you're in the moment, then you perform well. And if you're not in the moment, you don't perform well. So there are many activities that we do where we put ourselves into these situations. It's very difficult, for instance, we're sitting at the table and we're discussing, and we drank coffee and all kinds of ideas, we're thinking about what we heard. It's not so easy, there's nothing to concentrate us. But if we play tennis instead, or do some kind of sport or activity that can force us into the present, without realizing it. I did this when I was 16. I found rock climbing. In rock climbing, if you don't concentrate, you fall off. So it's clear. And of course there are many other activities that force us into the present. And there's a tremendous amount to learn from that. And this guy, Timothy Galloway, has written very profoundly, just about the game of tennis, but wider. So, for me, that's more valuable than the book upstairs that somebody showed me this morning. The sayings of Kodo Sawaki, translated from French into English, about an old sutra called Shodoka. Yeah. Now, Shodoka was probably somebody writing about his version of tennis 500 years ago. But we've carried that in an abstract form from 500 years ago through to the present. And somebody's written a book, and then we can read it, and our minds can go back and think, I see. But I wonder which is more helpful sometimes. I spent 30 years studying the teachings of somebody who lived in the 13th century. And 30 years, it's a long time. And I could see what he was saying. But when I look around different groups now, especially Buddhist groups, many of them all are looking backwards into the distant past to read things that will help them in the present. And I wonder sometimes if that's the best way. Because there are many things in the present that will teach us. So instead of looking at our own experience, we look back at somebody else's experience. I don't mean it doesn't have any value, but increasingly I wonder, are we getting stuck in a kind of museum, a Buddhist museum? Because there's so much written by so many ancient masters, and I experience studying that ancient master, and I try to teach people. But I try to teach people, okay, he wrote in medieval Chinese and medieval Japanese, and here it is in English. But how can they understand exactly what he wrote in the 13th century, in his life, in his environment? What was he trying to say? And I find there are more misunderstandings of what these ancient teachers were trying to say than there are correct understandings. Especially Dogen, who I know very well. Almost all the books I read about Dogen, for me, they miss the point.
Which is?
Here it is. Here it is. Which
Please tell us the secret. Tell us the secret.
Here's the point. It's about our real lives here and now.
Can I say something to balance, for balance? I agree, but at the same time, until I was 18 or 20, I was desperate to find the meaning to my life. I was looking in books And of course I got educated.
It's not in books.
No, it's not. Let me finish. I went to schools. I read about philosophy. I read the Bible, religions. I had friends, but nothing really was. Nothing made perfect sense, or nothing was what I really believed. That would be the point. And then I came across Introduction to Zen Buddhism, which is, of course, you can say it's not just spiritual, something ancient, abstract, useless. But it was by... Wait.
Yeah.
Daisetsu Daitaro Suzuki wrote that book, Introduction to Zen. And what that book did to me, and that's what I find really valuable, it denied everything I had learned by that. Everything it denied. And said, experience your life. And that was the beginning of my Zen practice and studies. So that was a book about all masters.
Okay, well, that's great. So you can buy the book, read it, it throws you into your life, and then you can put the book under the corner of the table.
Then you have to... You know. But I needed that somebody told me forget everything that you heard until now. I needed someone to break my mind.
You needed a kick?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there we are then. Fantastic.
So without that book, I would be still looking for something.
It's like the book fell down on your head and it was done.
No, I didn't understand what he was saying. I just understood that it's not what I think. It was the beginning of my learning. Completely beginning.
Yeah. Well, I went through 30 years of studying Dogen, but I wasn't looking for... It sounds strange, but I wasn't looking... I wasn't looking for something. I was looking for something to do at the weekend in a foreign city. And it was interesting to publish our translations, which is what I did. So my study was by publishing. I find it very difficult to read a book and understand what the book says. So we all have different histories. Yeah. But in the end, we have to put the book down. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm talking about a book. Timothy Galway wrote in a book.
The problem is when people get stuck in reading and forget to experience. That's the problem.
Well, it's nice to read. I don't mean it's wrong to read. What I'm saying is that there seems to be, it's very common for Buddhist, especially Zen Buddhist groups, to look back at the ancient writings. But it's not so clear that they link them to their real lives. Because I read and see people talking about the ancient masters saying this or that, but I don't hear people saying what it means to them. There's a kind of tradition to explain these ancient writings in a kind of old-fashioned way. We can use modern words and modern experiences, and the spread of sport, for me, is more powerful in teaching than the spread of religion. because I don't feel that the Buddhism I study is a religion. I think it's closer to sports psychology than it is to spiritual religions. So if we play tennis professionally, then we can focus ourselves every time we play, so that's great. We're entering the present moment. Or if we decide to become some professional athlete or something, we bring ourselves into the present moment because we have to. But in our normal lives, it's not so easy. We're always moving out of the present moment, and we don't notice it. So we make a plan, and then we think the plan will happen, and then when it happens, it's completely different to what the plan was. And some people go through their lives disappointed that what they think in their mind about the future is not what it turns out to be. So that prevents them from enjoying what they have. So being in the present moment, of course we're all in the present moment all the time. But to bring ourselves into the present moment means we have to stop all the activity that takes us away from the present moment, which is any offers? All our thoughts,
Planning, dreaming.
all our thoughts, planning, dreaming, all our physical feelings or emotional feelings, they take us away, don't they? Pandemic? All these things take us away from the present moment. Boy, what's the present moment got left? No feelings, no emotions, no thoughts. Sounds terrible. So it's difficult for us to live without our dreams and our memories and our emotions. So we constantly move out of the present, which is empty, and then move back in again. Then move out and then move back in again. And if you see a tennis player standing waiting to receive the ball, they do this, don't they? What they're trying to do is get themselves into the present moment. Don't think. Don't remember, don't think. You forget that you lost the last point. You're not going to win. To get everything out. So that activity of doing that is dynamic and is called action in a very wide sense. So in a very wide sense, when we sit in Zazen and we constantly stop thinking about tomorrow, stop looking out the window, we're actually doing the same thing as the tennis player, not quite so focused, but that's what we're doing. Bring ourselves back, bring ourselves back, bring ourselves back, bring ourselves back. Maybe the whole half an hour is bringing ourselves back. And then sometimes we find that we're back, we're home. And in that instant, there's kind of total awareness. Not a person aware of something, but just awareness without anybody. And we can feel it, maybe only for 30 seconds, or sometimes during a retreat for a few minutes, or even a whole zazen. Oh, my zazen this morning was fantastic. Because we stop having to bring ourselves back. For some reason, we kind of stay there, balanced on the ice skates. And there's a kind of total awareness.
Once I had a visitor, a professional golf player at the Lotus Center.
Yeah.
And he was a very nice guy, very modest, and he wanted to try to practice zazen. And he said, "What am I supposed to do?" And I told him, so I showed him the posture, and I said, "Just sit. You don't have to do anything else, just sit." So after 1 hour, I asked him, "How was it?" And he said, "Horrible." I said, "Why?" "Because you didn't tell me what to do. I need a task. I had no task. Like in golf, you have to put the ball in."
Yeah.
He said, "I can't do something like this, sorry." A very nice guy, but he said, "I can't sit without a purpose." So I realized how amazing our practice is, because we practice doing something without a purpose. I think it's amazing.
Well, it has a long-term purpose in our normal world, but the actual activity, the action itself, is purposeless. Yeah, but you practice golf,
and it's mentally very stressful.
So when you're practicing swinging the golf club,
it's incredibly mental, because you have to let go of your fear that you won't hit it well. So very difficult, and even professional players lose tournaments because of their nerves. They are too nervous. And I used a very good camera, a slow motion camera, and when I thought I was relaxed enough, because all the teachers told me, "You have to relax, don't worry about the ball." So I thought, yes, I have relaxed. And then I saw the slow motion, and my face at the moment of hitting the ball was like this. So I didn't relax. So very difficult to let go in golf.
Was it letting go that was the essential thing?
Yes, because you're tense, and when you're tense, you cannot really hit the ball.
Okay, so
golf is maybe one of the most difficult mental sports. So cycling much easier, because it's just very simple.
But the essential thing to hit the ball is to let go.
Let go.
Okay.
Very difficult. But when I'm in traffic among trams and cars, I have no time to think or be afraid, because I would be dead the next moment. I have to be like this, tram, bus, so
yes.
It's more relaxing.
Skiing gives you a good example of letting go and being in the moment, and you're coming down the ski slope. You have to concentrate all the time, otherwise you fall over. So that's all I've got to say, really. So this is our last discussion session. So if anybody wants to talk about anything else other than the present moment.
Sometimes sometimes also beekeeping is about the present moment when we are holding a frame and must be careful about your fingers. But I was also thinking that you need to do some particular task.
Well, of course, we can't do things in our modern lives without thinking. But at the instant of doing it, I mean, the tennis player is thinking, but he has to stop thinking at the moment of his action. So it's not a question of getting rid of our brain. It's impossible.
Otherwise he falls down or leave the court.
But we can recognise that in the present moment, if we let go of everything, we can act fully. And in ancient Buddhism, they used the simile of the moon. And if you were doing something and you were split, that means you're thinking about something while you're doing it, or thinking about something else while you're doing it. They described it as two moons. So in some of the old stories, they say the monk had two moons. Means his consciousness was split, or there were no two moons, meaning that there was he was in or the person was in a state of wholeness in their action. So there are many examples in ancient stories, but of course they talk about it in a different way.